Honestly, I coach football in the state. The kids were fired up when they heard this, right? But today we're hearing kind of the same uncertainty. And I know that kids appreciate the word time, right? Giving you and everybody enough time to say that we can play. And I just use football for every kid, every sport. What do you say to those kids? Because the more time it takes, right, to make a decision, the less time there is to actually get the season underway. How do you put a perspective on that for kids at all sports? It doesn't just have to be football.
Absolutely. And so again, Coach, right now, we have to look at what are the best opportunities we can provide kids today. That best opportunity we can provide kids today is what we're doing, all sports, football included, right? Conditioning, low risk. We've established that. As we move forward, right, that is what the experience of COVID has been. We have to see how we progress, and over that time, we have to understand how have the metrics changed or not changed to allow us to take that next step in opening, okay? And sports is no different than I think where we are in every aspect of our lives with this. I know, you think about just from a state perspective, moving from phase 2 to phase 3, right? These are important decisions that the element of time and understanding when is the appropriate time to do that, what do the metrics say, how do you decide to take that step and allow that opportunity. For our kids, I would say sports is the same way, okay? Right now, we want you to get with your coaches and your teams in the safest opportunity that we could, and that's what we're providing. And enjoy the moments. Enjoy everything you have right now. Because we learned that in March, right? On March 9th, we played. On March 10th, we couldn't play anymore, right? And then we couldn't play through the spring. Nobody knew when we headed into this, in March or April, that we wouldn't be back on campuses in the spring. You have to enjoy the moments that you have with each other, the experiences that you had. And to our kids, I would say the same thing. Don't let your thoughts of what may or may not happen tomorrow diminish the experience that you're having today. Enjoy those moments with your coaches, with your peers, with your friends, playing a sport that you love today, and know that we're going to do the best we can to provide you every opportunity, if it is safe, to engage in the sports that you love.
Glenn, at this point, would you say it's fair to say you're going to try to play as many sports as you can, but at no point during this season is it going to be a concrete we are playing?
Yeah, Kai, I would say that has been our message from day one. Again, it's fluid, it's day to day. We assess every day. We assess on a weekly basis. Again, for every sport, and I think Danbury's a good example right now, right? So, Danbury's example where things were going well. There's an uptick in the community, and so schools had to go to distance learning, and sports have stopped for a period of time, right? But 2 days before that, sports were fine, right? So that's just the nature of COVID, and that's one of the things that, again, I think the frustration should not be with DPH. The frustration, shouldn't be with the frustration is just that COVID dictates that on a day-to-day basis, we have to evaluate and see what is possible and safe for our kids to do. So again, it's not unique to volleyball or football, as you said. It's all sports, and that's why, again, going back to your question, Coach, you have to encourage the kids, enjoy the moment you have today, and you're playing today, because that's all that we can guarantee you. That's all anybody can guarantee you with COVID is what the experiences we have right now.
Glenn, are you asking athletes, coaches to sign waivers that it's going to be okay for them? There'll be no legal repercussions if they come down with COVID?
Nothing, Joe, beyond what they normally sign to participate in sports.
The DPH's, the recommendations, as I read them, they're concerned about the spread when school returns. That's been their big thing. Like they, compared to summer sports, they don't know what schools are going to look like. Some are hybrid, some are not. Some are, so there. But a lot of people are arguing that summer provided the best context. They said there was I mean, how concerned are you guys about that? I mean, what have you seen in that regard about schools reopening and having kids back in a population like that?
We share that qualitative concern that when you put high concentrations of people together indoors, that there certainly is a greater potential for spread. So that is something that we want to, again, provide the time to assess. And that's why from our plan from the onset to where it is now, had kids in school for a 2-week period of time before we considered any full team type of experiences, right? So that has just shifted back because the start date of schools have shifted back. So we recognize their concern from that qualitative perspective, and we share it. Where we're trying to get on the same page is the quantitative data that our medical experts and that we've been talking to look at. Would ask, when you look at that primary factor, right, of the percent of cases per 100,000, it's still remarkably low in Connecticut. Even as the cases in younger demographics may be increasing, that overall percent by county is extremely low. When you look at hospitalizations and you look at deaths, that still stays, and again, recognizing one death is too many, it's still, that number still stays very low, which would, may suggest that either the younger demographic who may be getting it either handles it better, or the medical treatment is advanced where they know how to treat it better, or a combination of both. And that's why as we progress and we mutually agree, yes, we need time because it is a concern that as we get indoors in groups that it may increase. But we want to make sure that we're looking at the same quantitative measures that DPH is looking at to assess whether or not that qualitative concern has actually happened, or as we've seen with return to sports in June and July, that concern didn't play out.
How much are you guys looking at both sides, looking at other states? Other states have opened up football. How much of a factor is that in your, I hate to say that, you're looking at kids in petri dishes over in the other states, but, how much of a factor is that in there? Because they are doing it, and what have you found so far? I mean, it's only been a couple weeks, so.
Right, yeah, exactly, Sean. Not only have we had some states now that have played football, but there were some states whose, for example, Iowa, their regular sports season for baseball and softball is the summer. So they played their state association season during their normal time, which was the summer. So that was a piece to look at, specific schools playing there as well. And then, as you said, there's a number of states playing football right now. So, what we've seen so far is that there have been cases where schools, 1 or 2 kids or 3 kids on a team may have come down, with COVID, where there's been a 2-week kind of isolation for a team where they couldn't play. But we haven't seen anything yet, or I haven't heard anything yet, whether from those summer experiences or those teams, those states already playing fall sports right now, where the result has been that an entire sports season or specific sport would have to shut down. But as you said, it's relatively young. Again, when you think about, I think the standard really is about 2 weeks of kind of understanding, is there an impact to the metrics? So we're still kind of in the early stages of even those state associations getting back. But again, the value of time. 3 weeks from now, they're going to be in the middle of their seasons, and we're going to just be at the potential of starting ours. And that's going to be valuable data for us to look at.
Glenn, DPH has made the recommendations, volleyball, football, no. If the data is still low, if it's good for you guys come October 1st, is the CIAC prepared to go against what the DPH is recommending and go forward with volleyball, football?
Yeah, so I'm not reading it as DPH has said no volleyball or no football. I'm understanding DPH's recommendations of no volleyball and football as normal, consider ways to mitigate the risk to a lower level, that you could safely play those sports under their recommendations. So, I just want to make sure, for the public that, that they understand that's our kind of read of that right now as well. And again, our intent as we move forward is to find that common position with DPH on this, and I'm confident we will. I think, again, we need to continue the discussions that we're having. They're very good discussions. We recognize as well, DPH has a lot of things on their plate right now beyond sports. So, those conversations may take a little bit longer than, maybe some people would hope that answers would come. But again, we have to be respectful of the many things that DPH is dealing with right now as well. But I'm hopeful over the next couple of weeks. I said, if we can come to that understanding of, let's just see where we are, push it off, and let's not close the door on these experiences because the metrics do support right now trying. Understanding, as Sean said, the risk of DPH's position that bringing kids together, there's that concern. We share that concern as well. So I'm fairly confident that I think we'll come to that position together, just as we have to start conditioning, to start low risk non-contact activities. We share the same position to start soccer, field hockey, swimming, cross country 2 weeks after school. We're on the same page with all those, and so that we have come to those mutual agreements. I'm confident we can get there in football and volleyball as well.
Glenn, to your point earlier, you said kids, if there aren't any sports, will find a way, right, to play. We've seen at least 3 or 4 or 5 big name players head to another state to play. What's your reaction, to that?
Yeah, and I think the states they're heading to don't have the metrics we do, and so again, it's part of our point, Coach, where again we respect the position that we should wait until we have schools back on campus to read this, right? There's a reason that Connecticut's metrics are as good as they are, because through the leadership of DPH, our governor's office, things have been put in place that have brought us to that point. And so we share that, we can't, recklessly, risk that by just going and putting groups, full in play. So we recognize we need to have that time frame of a couple weeks, see the data, and again, at that point, the decision we need more data. We have to be intentional and deliberate with the decisions we make to keep Connecticut's metrics low and get our kids on campus. So, yeah, it's disappointing to see kids make the choice that they need to go somewhere else for that athletic experience, and I'm sure that's not an easy choice. You think about the friends they're leaving behind, the decisions that they're making there. So it's a difficult choice they're making. We would prefer to see them, stay here and play. But again, in this environment, you just have to be respectful of the individual choices that people make, and and from that, do the best we can to provide kids experiences.
Glenn, the metrics for going forward, will your decision be based on the entire state's metrics or a much smaller group of the high school metrics?
Yeah, Joe, I think you have to look at it in multiple ways. So again, you have the primary factor and then the tertiary factors that are represented in the state Department of Education and DPH model that is put out there, and that includes looking at things from a county perspective as well as narrowing it down to an individual school, right? So again, just using the case of Danbury where you are right now, so the county numbers for Danbury are fine. For Fairfield County are fine, right? But the numbers specific to Danbury may not be the same as, as what the average in the county is. So you have to dig down a little bit deeper to individual schools in that as well. And again, our member schools, as they're heading back to learning, they're not taking any risks as this year. Our superintendents, our principals, our teachers have been extremely, diligent in thinking about the process and going back. And so, if numbers are going up there, we're confident they're going to communicate with us in individual scenarios, and be able to address that, as I said, both from a more statewide, county, and then down to individual district level.
Glenn, when you guys were putting together the fall plan, you released it July 30th. Had you talked to the DPH at that time?
Yes. The fall plan that we released on July 30th, on July 24th, we presented that plan for review to the Connecticut Rules Committee. There were members of DPH that sat on that committee. We did reach out to DPH specific to the fall sports plan as early as July 10th. We heard back from them specifically with a person who could talk directly with us on July 27th. We set up a meeting on July 28th. We spoke with that individual from DPH as well as an infectious disease MD with DPH as well. And at that time, actually on the 28th, was the first time that we specifically asked the question, what is your position on youth Pop Warner and high school football? And again, at the time, based on where we were and looking at metrics, again, we're sure there's always concern with high-risk sports, that there's a higher risk of transmission, understood. But at that time, the metrics in Connecticut and what was taking place would not prohibit high-risk sports from playing. So again, football being, the only high-risk sport, we remained in communication with them. I had communications August 9th, August 10th, August 12th, and then the letter from DPH on August 13th. So again, yes, we've been speaking with them, along the way. And again, opinions change and things change, and they change for good reason and good rationale. And that's why we just need to keep those lines of communication open, and as they have been, and we'll continue to collaborate with DPH as we move forward. Got it. Anything else?
Just a simple question. I've had a couple coaches ask me, the cohort groups, football obviously has 11 positions out on the field, soccer has 11. Coaches are wondering why 10 and not 11, so they can at least run full skeleton drills and such like that.
The recommendation at DPH is 10. And so we're going with that right now as we continue to talk with them, and finalize, kind of the timelines for everything. When in our fall plan, we had actually recommended that we can increase that cohort size to 15. The rationale with our medical experts that we talk to is that cohort size, the number is sort of arbitrary. It's really about what is the number of kids that you can manage to maintain social distancing standards, to maintain the COVID mitigating strategies that you've put in place to do the best you can to keep kids safe. So the number of 15 is what we arrived at, thinking of one coach, whether you're indoors or outdoors, could reasonably monitor, can reasonably enforce those mitigating strategies that were part of our plan, and keep kids in that safe environment. That was the rationale and thinking behind ours. DPH's recommendation was 10, I believe. I'm not positive on this, but I believe their recommendation was based off of the NFHS guidelines that suggested 10. So, that's our rationale, that's their rationale. Whether it's 15 or 10, we both agree it should be small cohort as we go through the first 2 weeks. So, it's a point we can continue to talk to them about, but it's not a hang up for us.
Glenn, can you make your metrics so finite that you could actually shut down, say, a school and let everybody else play? Will you be able to do that?
I think schools will look at the metrics along with that and talk to us. Again, it's the situation you have right now, right? So Danbury shut down, but the schools around them aren't, right? So.
But you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't
No, again, as we talk about this and we go through it, the local departments of health in districts are going to be very important, as they have, all along. And again, it's, we always have to keep in mind that athletics through CIAC are an extension of school curriculums, right? They're not separate from that. So we always have to take into account what is happening in the instructional setting, and then think of how does that extend and apply to the athletic setting. So we would always, be in communication with our schools, Those schools would be in communication with their local departments of health, and we would look at what's reasonable there. Again, nobody in their school wants to put kids at risk, and nobody in their school wants to put other kids at risk. So as I said, when you look at the charts and the categories put together by the State Department of Education and by DPH, I think that will be a very significant guiding factor, not only for us, but individual schools. Anything else? Okay, again, we appreciate everybody coming out and your time. Fluid is the, could be the title of the document. And again, we'll continue to do the best that we can support kids. Appreciate all the collaborations we've had with DPH. Again, what we're presenting today, we actually see as being more in line with kind of DPH's thinking than not being in line with DPH's thinking. And we'll continue to assess as we go along, doing the best we can for our kids. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.